Let's get right into these 3 things that I always do when I'm planning and preparing for travel or trips as a Catholic woman. The first thing is I plan around Mass. So what does this mean? This means rather than plan a trip and then figure out how Mass is going to fit into the travel, or if it's going to fit into the travel, Mass is really the central focal point of my planning for a trip. This point specifically is inspired by Father David Abernathy. I was inspired by him because he talked about this in one of his episodes of the Philokalia Ministries. I think I actually got that right. I think it's one of his podcast episodes. If you haven't listened to that yet, totally amazing, would recommend. In this podcast episode, he specifically was talking about if we're choosing to go to a place where we know we won't be able to go to Mass or receive the sacraments, that is a pretty unwise thing to do for your soul and your eternal soul. Now what I do is I always figure out, okay, where am I going to be? If you guys saw my last vlog, I traveled to Florida, and this was something I was doing for work, so it was kind of a work/business trip. I knew that this place was not in the middle of nowhere. I knew that I was going to Orlando, where there's civilization and humans, so I wasn't worried about there being a Mass nearby. What I do once I know where I'm going is I will then research the Mass options around me. I will basically look at all of the means that are going to be required to get to a Mass, especially on Sunday mornings. And if I find that there isn't a Mass for, say, like 100 miles or something, and it literally isn't attainable for me to go to Mass during a trip like that, then I'm going to completely rethink the trip and not go on the trip, because again, why would I put my soul in jeopardy like that? Now, the second thing that I now do as a Catholic woman when I'm preparing to travel is I determine appropriate for the occasion and modest outfits for the weather conditions that are to be expected. I think it's safe to assume probably most people have some idea of the kind of weather conditions they're going to be entering into if they're planning a trip, if it's going to be a lot hotter, a lot colder. But I now approach planning my outfits much differently as a Catholic woman, because I now love and try my best to embrace modesty as much as I can. And so something that I try to do is really dive deep into what kind of clothing do I need to have prepared for a particular trip, and how can I make sure that I feel comfortable, confident, as if I'm really projecting who I am, right, in my clothing, but at the same time staying very modest and respectful to my dignity as a human being, as a woman, and being respectful to everyone around me, and of course honoring God as well, because I am his temple, and we all are God's temple with our bodies. So I really strive to honor my body far more than I did in the past through my clothing. So another part of this not only is looking up the weather, but I also really make sure that I know what kind of activities to expect. Say I'm going on a trip where there might be more than just hanging out going on, right? Maybe there are going to be hikes or swimming, any sort of special occasion perhaps. I always check with the people that I'm traveling with or the people that are hosting me to find out a little bit more, as much as I can, about sort of what to be prepared for as far as activities, so that I can dress accordingly and plan my clothing accordingly. Because something that I've learned now that I've really begun to take my modest dressing seriously is that any activity can be made modest and can be made beautiful and can be made a work of art, but it doesn't have to lose the beauty that many of us strive for when we're dressing. We want to feel comfortable, we want to feel confident. I've learned that you can have all of those things and still dress modestly. Modesty is so beautiful. In fact, it's the most beautiful form of clothing ever. So that is something that I now do. And the third and last thing that I always do to help prepare and plan for travel is I go to confession. I try to time the confession within those first few days leading up to me traveling, especially within that first week, especially to just get off some of those heavier, weightier sins that might be kind of looming over me. Then I feel so much better getting ready to travel with pretty much a clean slate, so to speak. Cleaner slate. I always feel so much better traveling that way, because again, right, we don't know what God's plan is for all of us from the day-to-day moment. We don't know when he is going to decide that it is time for us to leave this earth. So it just brings me so much peace of mind to, again, have that cleaner slate, to be able to go on an adventure where there are potentially a lot of variables with travel, right? You just don't know what could possibly happen. And so of course we don't take this pessimistic view where we're like wondering, okay, when's it gonna happen? God, I'm on the plane now. You know, we don't take an approach like that, or we at least try not to. It does give that peace of mind of, okay, whatever happens, God, happens. It's your will, and I just pray that having made this confession recently, that my soul is more prepared to meet you when the moment comes. And also, if you've ever been to confession, then you know that feeling coming out of confession of being so refreshed and renewed by God's amazing mercy and love. There's just nothing like it. So in my opinion, just going to confession, going to mass, embracing and participating in these sacraments is always just a great thing to do before anything we do, not just travel, right? But literally anything. And same with, you know, planning to dress modestly. These are all things that is highly helpful to our souls, and it's going to also just make us feel more joyful and more at peace before we do anything at all. Traveling, a big interview, going on a date, a first date, all of these things, you just can never go wrong by allowing ourselves to be cleansed by God's amazing loving mercy. If you haven't been to confession in a long time, or you haven't been to mass in a long time, I just hope that this video can inspire and encourage you to do so as soon as possible, whenever you get the chance soon, I pray, because I just know that whether you're traveling soon or you have anything going on in your life, it is going to bring you just graces that you could never even possibly imagine. And the beauty of that, there are no words for it. God has just, as we know, a way of working through the sacraments and also inspiring us to dress more modestly, to showcase our beautiful selves to the world in a way that also honors him and promotes the dignity of our bodies and who we are as temples of the Holy Spirit. Please let me know in the comments, what do you do before you travel or when you're planning to go on a trip? Let me know what it is that you do to prepare. And if you're a Catholic, let me know, especially if you have like different prayers that you always do before you travel or anything else. Let me know, share it in the comments for all of us to learn from. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in my next one. Alrighty, have a great day. Bye everybody.